Livelihoods Fund is an initiative by the private sector. Large companies produce CO2 emissions, but at the same time there are ecosystems that sequestrate carbon. The fertility of the soil depends on carbon. The deforestation, the mangrove destruction is linked to carbon sequestration or carbon release. So the Livelihoods Fund is a very simple mechanism. Companies invest money in a mutual fund. This mutual fund is used to support the restoration of ecosystems that provide livelihoods to local population. For example, we help local communities in Senegal to restore mangrove, and the mangrove will provide the fish and the oysters and the wood for the future. In return, the companies will get carbon credit, but not any kind of carbon credit. It's carbon credits that have a very high social and environmental value because they are linked to the livelihoods of very poor population. So the companies will use those carbon credits to compensate, to offset part of their emission. At the same time, the companies that are engaged in the fund are also acting on reducing their footprint through technologies, through change in their logistics, supply, whatever. But they are playing on the two registers. On the one hand, reducing their footprint. On the other hand, compensate, offset through the livelihoods project.
And what companies are involved in the Livelihoods project?
So far, 7 companies. The fund was created in December 2011, so a bit less than 1 year. In 1 year, 7 companies have joined the fund. The capital of the fund is so far 30 million euro. The first company that initiated the fund is Danone, a dairy company and water company. And the other companies that have joined are a bank, Crédit Agricole, a famous luxury good company, Hermes International, but also the French Postal group, or Schneider Electric, which is energy efficiency world leader. So large corporations, they are all engaged on climate change and poverty alleviation, and they wanted to do something different, not just buying carbon credit from the market, and they wanted also to engage in the project, because for them it's a learning opportunity. Schneider Electric is working on access to energy in the village where Livelihoods is investing, and they come with technical solutions for the villages. With Danone, we work on nutrition and reducing malnutrition in the villages.
The carbon markets seem to be in crisis at the moment, and perhaps that is linked with the economic crisis, or perhaps it's linked with policy inactivity. Are you confident that companies like this will maintain their interest even if the carbon market happened to collapse and they couldn't use those credits anywhere else?
There are two carbon markets. One is the compulsory market, where large emitters such as the electricity company or chemicals, the large corporation had the duty to reduce or to buy carbon credit. This market is at the moment in a difficult phase. We don't know what will be the solution in the future. Livelihoods operate on a voluntary market, meaning that all the companies that are part of the fund have decided to invest freely in the fund. They are not obliged to compensate their emission, so they do it because they want to engage. And because it's a voluntary approach, of course they are looking for high quality carbon credit, not just for price. The benefit of the fund is that we share, we mutualize the technical approach of the project, and we mutualize the risk. One company alone could be with great difficulty select and implement such project with local NGO in such countries. But all together we are able to mobilize the right technical resources to select the right project and monitor these projects.
And we're talking about a huge company like Danone. Why do you think, what is their incentive for getting involved in a project like this? Do you think that the public will expect more of these big companies in the future, and they're in a sense getting a head start?
If you consider Danone, what is the business of Danone? It's basically processing product from the soil. It's milk. It's food is out of the cultivation of the soil. So and when we bottle water, such as the Evian water, what is it? Is it natural, safe water that is processed by nature? So it is quite natural that companies like Danone are very much involved in any kind of innovation where we are able to create the link between production, livelihoods, and conservation of natural resources.
How do you think organisations like yours and others who are working in this field, how do you ensure that we do not see what is commonly called greenwash? How do you ensure, what criteria do you have in place to ensure that this is not a mask for companies' other efforts?
I think it's quite simple. We need to be trusted on what we do. I think the best advocate of what Livelihoods Fund is implementing with the companies is what the NGO can tell about it. When an NGO like Oceanium plants 100 million mangrove trees, go and ask the villages if it's greenwashing. They will tell you. When we are helping the very poor ladies of Sundarbans to restore what we call the bioshield, which is huge surfaces, huge areas of mangrove, to protect them against the waves of the hurricanes that damage the dams, which are soil dams. And then the waves go into the rice pads, and then there is no more crops because it's salt water. Go and tell the ladies in the Sundarbans villages that it's greenwashing. They will tell you.
And on a final note, we have this economic crisis we've mentioned, but are you sensing there is growing interest in the private sector, in the EU and beyond, in initiatives like these?
What I think is that there is a growing understanding that we need to join forces practically, not just in general. There is no one single solution coming from NGO, coming from government, or coming from the private sector. How can we co-invent solutions which have an impact on a large scale? What is, I think, important in the way we approach this issue is that we really want to reach scale. There are many very interesting small-scale projects, but the question is, how can we really have an impact on a large scale? And for that, we need the field experience of good NGOs, we need the competencies of company, and of course, we need a very clear frame and governance by the government. But we have to implement it on the ground, very concretely, not just through general talks and general things. And that's what we are trying to do in the Livelihoods project.